Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 3 of Real Conversation. It is currently, June 30th? Not that we need to timestamp everything, but just for everyone's sake, because I feel like, given the news for this week, it's important to date everything just to know exactly where we stand. But I'm not alone. I'm obviously Landon, as per usual, and Savannah, you're joining me as well. How are you?
I'm good. It's been a morning.
It has. It's been a morning. You and I just finished watching Loki. I know you've watched it probably twice. I just nearly watched it twice. I had to skip through a little bit just to make sure that we were in time for our time slot that we normally have this on. But yeah, this is a very interesting episode that we'll talk about more in depth as the episode progresses. And there was also kind of a lot of news, but I think this is based on the episode that we got of Loki today, based on our subjects that we're talking about. I think, at least for me, I think this is gonna be our best episode yet, topic wise.
I agree. I am excited to get into this. So much happened in the show this morning. So much has happened this week. We got a lot to talk about.
Without a doubt. So with that in mind, we talked about major storylines, top headlines. You know the deal. We got to go into our top headlines of the week. Let's go ahead and roll it.
It's time for headlines.
All right. So first of all, critics got to see Black Widow in advance of its July 9th release on Disney Plus and in theaters. And most of the reviews have been pretty good. It's currently sitting at an 85% on Rotten Tomatoes. Of course, that's going to change when audiences get to see the movie, of course. But overall, I would say pretty positive reception, and apparently the film is going to contribute more to the current and future MCU story than previously thought, and that has me excited.
Yeah, I think that's great. I'm excited to see it. Obviously, it's not too long from now. What will we have? We'll have another episode before it comes out, or will we not? I'm trying to think, actually.
I think we will.
We'll have an episode right before. Because obviously it comes out July 9th. Yeah, okay. So we'll have like a few days. We can kind of maybe dedicate next episode, obviously, to Loki as well, but also maybe previewing, what could happen to Black Widow. And also, something that is interesting, now that I think about it, is that we will have Loki episode 5 heading into Black Widow. Now, I don't know, but it'll be right before the finale of Loki. And I know we're already talking about Loki a little bit, but I don't know if there's anything that could contribute in some form or fashion, but it is interesting that the times do line up to the point where the last episode of Loki will not be done until we've watched Black Widow. I don't know, just something.
That is true, and they did switch Loki's release date to Wednesdays as opposed to Fridays. I don't know if that's coincidence or not. We'll find out.
Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, well, I mean, give like from your perspective, like, is 85% on Rotten Tomatoes, which of course, it's just one website's, in regards to their opinions, their collection of different critics. I mean, is that a high score for what you thought, or is it something else?
It's hard to say.
Yeah.
I think in general, Marvel movies it's hard to take a critic's word on.
Yeah.
And that's no offense to any critics out there. There's a lot of awesome critics who are Marvel fans, so I don't mean that.
Right.
But like, we're not looking for an Oscar film here.
Sure.
We're looking for an MCU film. Most of the critics' reviews I've read who I know are Marvel fans, they're all about it.
Okay.
So I'm kind of going off of who I've heard things from, because
Sure.
Again, a critic more familiar with the Oscar circuit or more like indie or artistic films, they're probably not going to like or rave about any MCU movie.
Right.
So that's kind of why I think it's a little skewed.
Mm-hmm.
And I take the word of those who I know understand Marvel.
Right. Yeah, that is interesting. Huh. I mean, I'm excited. I'm excited to see it. I think it'll be good. But as you said, I've heard some people say that they really liked it. I've heard some people as well. Like I was actually watching someone discuss the current episode that we saw for Loki today, and he discussed how he got to see it, and he said he was kind of let down. He felt like there was a lot of opportunity for it to be better. So again, there's a lot of reviews all over the place, but again, once it does come out, maybe we could do a watch together of it. Maybe we could have a full, like, almost like dedicate a specific episode maybe to only talking about Black Widow, and maybe its impacts on the MCU, things of that nature. So yeah, it is interesting though. That's interesting. What else do we got?
Also this week, in regards to Marvel, a fan discovered that Marvel went back to the second post-credit scene of the WandaVision finale and changed a couple of things.
Yeah.
And what they changed didn't really affect what was going on in the scene, but it's still interesting that months after WandaVision concluded, they went back and changed some stuff. So here are some of the changes. I believe they made a couple of color alterations, not that big of a deal. They added more trees to like the landscape and more trees around the cabin that she's in. I believe they fixed or tried to fix a lighting effect and a camera movement. But what I think is the most interesting is that they changed the credits to include the Doctor Strange theme. They wanted that to be known. So of course, most likely they finished or are finishing Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, the Doctor Strange sequel, and they are probably going to revisit this scene from WandaVision, and they wanted them to match up. So understandable, but in this world of streaming and in this world of Marvel series, it's still like this is new. This is a new world. The fact they can go and change something that's already been seen by the public is pretty interesting. So, and WandaVision is not going to have any physical media. You will not be able to go buy a Blu-ray or DVD of the series. So they can go and change things whenever they want, technically, and that's just the way it is.
Do you think that's a smart decision? No physical media at all?
I think that's the way the world's going. Yeah. I'll be honest. I don't remember the last time I bought a DVD or a Blu-ray. Just with streaming.
True.
So I know a lot of people are trying to hang on to physical media. And granted, I do like having something tangible. I mean, that is appealing. But when you have so much content to digest, what is simple is what you're going to go towards. So
yeah, I feel like
I think it's inevitable.
And I think just talking, strictly about like maybe Marvel in this case, like, as much as I would love to have a copy of every single Marvel movie, I don't want to have 21, giant DVDs with extended feature. I mean, as much as that would be nice, it's just so much easier just to pull up Disney Plus or to pull up, said app, for example, and just be able to watch it. And I don't want to get too much into a conversation like that because, that could literally be its own separate segment. But, I feel like for a long time, and it was even this way because gaming had taken this step maybe like 3 or 4 years ago. Whenever like the PS4 and Xbox One had originally came out, there was a lot of talk about how Sony and Microsoft really wanted to step into this this element of everything being digital. They even incentivized people to buy the digital copies, the digital versions of different things. And everyone was like, well, I want to have like my, my game case. And I thought the exact same thing. Like I enjoy the process of going to, Walmart or Target, GameStop, whatever the store may be, and having the physical game, because what happens if I lose my account or, whatever it may be. And it just got to the point where eventually that excitement really didn't matter to me anymore. It was like, actually, like, it is nice just to be able to not have to open up, much like the DVD player, open up my console, take the disc out, make sure the disc is, good, put it back in the case, put it back on the shelf, grab another one off the shelf, take it, it's just, I think it's inevitable at this point. And as much as I hate that to be the case, because I'd love to have like physical media, and that relies on the importance of, things like having internet and all kinds of different things. I just feel like it's going down. The want or the necessity to have those things is no longer there anymore, or it's at least deplenishing very quickly.
Absolutely. Yep. I agree.
I think that is interesting though. The WandaVision ending, like, they do add some trees. Like they get rid of like a duck, I think that was like in the water.
Yeah, that was a little random. I'm not really sure.
And I know there was a lot of speculation about like the I know it was New Rockstars, I think, who had put out like an official opinion of it, which I was like, okay, that's exactly what happened, because everybody, like you mentioned, was like speculating that this is Doctor Strange coming from the mountainside because there was like this little lens flare thing that was going on, and then it's like, actually that was a problem with the edit, and I imagine they're probably going to get rid of that. You'll probably have like another update like, oh look guys, they got rid of that, so It is what it is. It is kind of weird. I wish that it wouldn't have been so rushed. Like they did such a great job, and then you have like a little problem like that. It did seem like as if it was quick. So I think that they tried to get that done as fast as possible, so that maybe the story would not leak, that they were changing the ending in some capacity. But I think more than anything, it doesn't necessarily mean a ton for, what's coming up next. I think obviously it sets the tone for, maybe where, as you mentioned, Doctor Strange picks up. But I think the bigger conversation is, like you mentioned, more on the side of like, okay, this could become a trend where little adjustments get made, and maybe it's not in a post-credit scene of a series finale. Maybe it's, the items that somebody has. Like, what if we go back and, let's say that the reality stone was in the drawer that Loki originally looked at, and then we go back and we're like, wait, that stone's gone, right? That stone doesn't actually exist, because maybe the reality stone, in the future of the MCU has different powers than we originally thought. Like, there's a lot of potential for little things to be changed. And as you said, I think that's the bigger story of the two. Not Doctor Strange, not what's next, but instead the fact that this could be a continuous trend.
They can do this. Yeah,
right, exactly.
Marvel could have some fun with it too. And,
absolutely.
And imagine the potential for retconning. So it's interesting conversation. Granted, it would be a big deal for them to really change something significant. But
imagine too, like if we talk about characters where we're like, well, where's this character been the entire time? Because that happens like with the MCU. I know you and I have talked about like, where have the Eternals been? Where has, I don't know. I know we'll get into this more, but like Black Widow's sister, where's she been the entire time? We'll probably get that revealed in some capacity. But like, what if they just put her in the background of some scenes and we're like, oh wait, look, that looks exactly like her, or this looks like this character at some point. Like maybe they're already doing that in some of the TV shows, or I just think there's a lot of potential for them to kind of get out of certain situations by being able to just work in some crafty editing. And I know that the Russo brothers have talked about this before, that their goal whenever they make Avenger movies, whenever they worked on Captain America movies and stuff, they always wanted to work themselves into a corner, because they didn't want to be able to figure out how to get themselves out. And the thrill of it was that not only did the audience not know what was going to happen next, but they truly did not know what was going to happen next. And so I think that maybe with the ability, at least in the TV shows, I think with movies, obviously it'll be different, but with the TV show element side of it, I think that, it'll at least allow for a lot more easiness, I guess, on the Marvel production side of things. So I guess that's not necessarily a bad thing. I don't like the idea of changing things up and just being able to be like, oops, see, we could just do this really fast. But I don't know. We'll see if it gets enhanced more as time goes on.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to go that far right away, but I just think it does open up some possibilities.
Sure. Right. Agreed.
Okay, so next thing up, we got the Shang-Chi trailer, finally, the second trailer. And it was full of reveals.
Yeah.
The one everyone's talking about is the last shot, showing like a cage match with Abomination from the Incredible Hulk, who we haven't seen since 10 years. I'm not sure, maybe more.
8, 9.
Long, something like that.
Yeah.
Haven't seen him apparently fighting Wong from Doctor Strange on a Doctor Strange connection this week. Also, there was a shot, this was before the cage match, but also a shot of a dragon.
Yes.
We finally got to see a dragon. So, yeah. And it was also just a crazy, amazing trailer on its own. But I think those elements really had people talking this week.
Yeah, and what I think and I actually looked, because at my local Target, and I actually had sent you some of this stuff, and I know that this has been reported by a few different media outlets, but they've already, Disney's gone full send with the amount of content and action figures and toys and stuff for these new movies. And I know that on the dragon, at least it looks as if it's the same one. I'm imagining that it is. They do have it labeled as the Great Protector.
Yes,
was the official name of the dragon in the trailer. So I did find that to be interesting.
I agree.
I saw, they had like the rings. I'm looking at, they had all kinds of different action figures. They had like the Marvel Legends series version of him. They had him with with all kinds of like different, they basically have every single possible, thing you could imagine, for him. They also had his dad and a few other characters. They also had Katie, I think, who's also going to be in this movie as well. I forget like the exact name of everybody, but she's obviously going to be, you know, she's in there. They also had like a fighting sequence of him versus Death Dealer. So if you go to your local Target, you may be able to find, like I said, a few movie spoilers, or, you know, it's at least like, it is kind of an interesting aspect to it that like it always is the action figures. It always is the toys, where it's like you can kind of get revealed like how characters look, or, you know, just like the slight naming of things, and how often have like Funko Pops, for example, like spoiled different movies and different characters and things like that. But I know I was personally a huge fan of the Shang-Chi trailer. You had let me know that it had come out, and I don't know how I missed it. Like it was like a good 6 or 8 hours, and I hadn't seen it yet after its release, and I was blown away by it. And much like everybody else, I was like, wait, that's Wong, right? And then everyone's like, no, it's not actually Wong. And then Kevin Feige comes out and basically is like, no, it's Abomination fighting Wong. We're like, okay, great, cool. We just wanted to double check, but yeah.
Feige said it, it's true.
It has to be. It has to be. He is the final word. But I'm excited. Like I think Shang-Chi, outside of Spider-Man, is probably my most excited movie coming up for sure.
I agree, 100%.
Like it just looks like it's going to be a phenomenal movie. And there's all kind of, you know, speculation and different predictions on how it could wind up, and I'm just in love with all of the theories that are going on right now.
It looks just like a fun movie too.
It does.
Which I like.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I want. You know, at times it's nice to have these, you know, TV shows or movies where there's a lot of theories, but it's just fun to just go to a movie theater and just be entertained by the characters and have just a totally new cast of people that we've never seen before, story that we've never heard before. And yeah, really just go from there. So I'm excited about it. Shang-Chi should be good. And then what? Also kind of on topic, I know I just mentioned Spider-Man. I know we're still waiting. Like you and I are still waiting. Like every day I'm going on the Direct, or I'm going on, you know, on collider.com, all kinds of different websites, trying to find out like, has the Spider-Man trailer been released? And it's still not here. When is it going to come?
Not here.
When is it going to come?
There are just as many theories about when the trailer is coming as there are about the movie itself.
Yeah.
There was rumors this week that it was going to happen. I was a little skeptical of this week, although, hey, it could drop while we're recording this. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I was skeptical about this week just because we just got the Shang-Chi trailer. So, like, why would Marvel do 2 trailers back to back? Why not let them breathe a little bit? But the thing with Spider-Man is that Sony controls the marketing for it. So Sony has their own agenda.
Sure.
So that's why it's also really unpredictable. We can't go by what Marvel does with marketing. You have a wild card there with Sony. So who knows? We're still on Spider-Man trailer watch. I hope that by the end of July at the latest.
Because I'm looking right now just to have the official date. It does release December 17th of this year. So we still have some time, but you'd expect, like I said, some teaser? Yeah, like some little bit of information. And then obviously as we get closer, we'll have all kinds of information. But yeah, I actually recently went back and watched Spider-Man Far From Home, and I was actually a really big fan of it. I actually liked Homecoming more than Far From Home, but I think I may be changing. I think I like Far From Home a little bit more than I like Homecoming. I don't know. I'm a big Spider-Man fan of the current MCU. I know that you like Tobey Maguire's and whatnot more, but you know,
I'll clarify.
He's one of my favorite. He's one of my favorites right now.
I like Tom Holland's Spidey in an ensemble. I like him best like in Infinity War, or in Civil War. Those are my favorite moments of his Spidey. His standalone movies are good, but I don't feel like they live up to the original Tobey Maguire. And I know some people don't like Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man movies. I think they're great. But yes, I like Tom Holland's Spider-Man, but I feel like he needs a big cast alongside with him. He plays better with a big cast, but the other ones I feel like can do a better standalone. But that could change. And then plus we may probably have all of the Spider-Men in this movie, and it could be like the greatest movie of all time. So
right. Yeah. Oh, who knows? I'm excited. I'm very excited for the Spider-Man trailer. Like I said, that and Shang-Chi are without a doubt like my, you know, and I know that's like 2 out of the 4, but those are like my 2 most anticipated movies coming up without a doubt. And like I said, I think that they'll deliver. I think the next Spider-Man movie is gonna be one to one to remember without a doubt. But is do you have
Agreed.
anything else? Any other top headlines of the week?
Switching over to Lucasfilm, we may
Yes.
get more into this later if we have time. We'll see.
Yeah.
But the latest episode of The Bad Batch dropped a ton of reveals. Um, for instance, Omega, which is a young female clone from Camino who's been with the Bad Batch
Right.
throughout the series so far. It was revealed that she's actually a unmodified clone, just like Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Also, Boba Fett, his original name on Camino was Alpha, and of course, Omega's name is Omega, meaning beginning and end. So she's basically Boba Fett's sister.
Yeah.
And one that was kind of, I wasn't expecting that, which I appreciate. I love a good twist. I don't want to be able to predict what's going to happen, but we have the book of Boba Fett coming out in December.
Right.
And I just feel like the Bad Batch is just laying out all the stuff that they're going to really capitalize on in that series later this year.
Yeah.
Also, it looks like we got to see maybe we saw some failed cloning experiments that really paralleled what we saw in The Mandalorian. And then we also saw in The Rise of Skywalker with Snoke and the Emperor trying to create clones. So I feel like the Bad Batch is also trying to kind of merge all the different like cloning storylines
Right.
and put them all together. I'm very interested on that and how they're going to continue that.
Yeah, I am too. And maybe this will be kind of where we talk a little bit about Bad Batch for a moment, because you know it is the mid-season of it for the time. Like, what, we're on episode 8, 9, about to be 9.
I think we just saw 9.
Just
So
saw
10
9.
should be coming out. Yeah.
Okay, so we're just past the mid-season, and so of course we do get, you know, as much as you would expect with movie storylines or show storylines, you got to have the one, you know, big thing in the middle that keeps you wanting to watch the remainder of it. And yeah, I think I watched 4 or 5 episodes in a row. That's just the way that it works for me. I don't know. Bad Batch so far hasn't kept my attention the way that I had hoped it would. I'm not shocked by that, and you know, now saying it. But I really enjoyed watching it kind of in bulk the way that I did. And I would incentivize people to, if they're interested, if you haven't already watched the Bad Batch, now's a good time to do it. You know, you can obviously watch a good amount of them in a row, and that's to me the best way to watch it. I know obviously you, for different reasons, you know, obviously have to keep up with it constantly, but for me, who's a little bit more of a casual viewer, I guess, when it comes down to those, I enjoyed more the process of watching them all at once rather than watching them once week by week, because to me it's just, I guess with the Marvel shows, they've spoiled me to the point where I need a lot to happen for me to be like, cool, like I got my fix. And I feel like for Bad Batch, it takes a few episodes in order to do that, which of course does make sense. Totally different TV show than the Marvel episodes, things like that. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed those little teases. I enjoyed a little bit of the callbacks that they had, you know, with the Rancor and that involving Jabba's palace. Like, that was a nice one, I think, in like episode 4 or 5. And then, as you mentioned, you know, the bigger storylines and whatnot. It's doing a good job, as you mentioned, to kind of bring the story together. And like I said, it's kind of doing the same job, not nearly as majorly, but what Clone Wars did, because Clone Wars, in my opinion, has made the prequels so much more interesting to watch. And you know, the way they closed everything out, the way that they made the clones interesting, the way that they told the story of Anakin in much more detail, which is arguably you needed to have that, at least kind of that history summed up a little bit. It, you know, I don't want to say it's saving the Star Wars movies by any means, but it's definitely helping, and it's allowing us to be able to connect the dots and, I guess, experience Star Wars in an easier way. Because as much as the movies are great, you know, TV shows obviously give you the ability to advance storylines and to be able to kind of get that character development. And I don't think there's any more interesting character development than Anakin, of course, turning into Darth Vader as time goes on. So that mixed in with Rebels, I love obviously that correlation, I guess. And like I said, they're kind of doing the same things that those TV shows have done, which is good. It only helps. So
nope, I agree. And like you said, the Bad Batch so far, this could change, so far is not my favorite series from Lucasfilm Animation. However, the animated shows have a better track record than a lot of the films do. which is
Right.
kind of crazy to say. And they do make the movies better. And yeah, so I'm excited to see if the Bad Batch, like if we're really getting into it now and they're going to keep the ball rolling with these reveals and connections and kind of providing context for the films, or if it's going to slow back down again, we'll
Mm-hmm.
see. But I'm a fan of Lucasfilm Animation and what they're
Yeah.
doing, and it's all from Dave Filoni. And hey, he's the chosen one, in my opinion, when it comes to Star Wars.
That's
So
funny.
whatever he wants to put on screen, I'm gonna watch.
That's good. I like that. That's funny. Well said. Well said.
Thank you, thank you. And last bit of news I have, and this is more just like a little note here. Today is the 50th anniversary of a classic film, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Do you like this movie? I need to know.
Do I like the original? That's what you're.
Yes, the original.
Yes, I like it. It's not like my favorite movie of all time. By no means do I go out of the way to like. I haven't watched Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory in a while, but it is a very good movie. It's a classic film, very very good. And yeah, I don't know. That's really all that needs to be said. I've watched it probably like, I don't know, probably 10 times growing up. So yeah, I'm a fan.
People are very mixed on it. Some people love it. Some people think it's really disturbing.
I mean, it's definitely a little
weird.
bit different. Like I get that, but it's a classic film. You have to like. It's almost like a Wizard of Oz. Like it definitely comes out from a totally different direction, but it's a great story.
That's a good comparison.
Yeah, it's a great story.
That's your little like film history tidbit of the
that.
week.
Yeah.
50th anniversary.
Is that today or is that just this week?
That's today.
Oh wow, look at that. Okay.
Yeah, I know. Being current,
June 30th in 1971. Raise your hand if you've seen if you saw Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory on opening day. I know I can't say that. I definitely cannot.
Neither can I.
All right.
But props if you can.
Yeah, definitely. Props if you can do that. I think that's it. Right now, time to move on to Loki. Is that correct?
That is right.
All right, cool. Let's go ahead and jump into episode 4 of Loki.
I am Loki of Asgard, and I've
Been falling for 30 minutes.
And this episode is titled The Nexus Event. Now, I came into this episode, Savannah, last week. I had mentioned that Tom Hiddleston in an interview with BBC, I think this interview has kind of gone under the radar, in my opinion, based on how much that he's talked about. And he said that episode 4 and episode 5 are personally his favorites of the entire series. And that in episode 4 and 5, when he was reading the scripts, he said that it takes a totally different direction than he would have thought. And for that reason, he was most intrigued to see audiences' reactions to this episode. So I told you that. I told Ashlyn that. And so we were all very excited about episode 4 because we talked about episode 3 last week. Obviously, more of a filler episode. There was, of course, some character development. We had obviously a major storyline that got released, but it definitely lacked in comparison to the prior two in regards to the action, the storyline advancing. Even the length of the show was shorter last week, so we were all very much craving a very good episode 4. And this delivered, not to talk about it overall so far, but this episode 4 I think delivered more than I thought that it would.
I agree. Yeah, I was also expecting this to be a big episode. I thought maybe like 1 or 2 major reveals.
Yeah.
But it just kept coming. And I kept thinking the episode was going to end like, oh, they're going to leave it on this cliffhanger. No, they gave me more. And it was as Loki would say, glorious.
Yes,
so,
it was glorious. And I kept pausing myself, or at least, like pulling up the time just to be like, okay.
Yes.
At one point I'm like, we have 22 minutes left. Like we have 22 minutes left. And not that I would be content if it ended, because if anybody from Disney's listening to this, no, not at all. Not content, and they need more. But I was very much like, very surprised in that situation. But I guess to kind of get into it, as we mentioned, from beginning to end, the show was filled with, with wonderful moments, action sequences, etc. And like I said, this episode starts off quite quick. We see an instant flashback into Sylvie's past and her version of Asgard from her timeline. and we see it from her perspective. Obviously, this was a very teased visual that we got in this week's teaser trailer for Loki. We had like a little visual of Sylvie basically being walked through in the TVA, and we get that off the start. Basically, when the TVA came and reset her timeline, and we don't really know why. As the episode progresses, she never really gets the answer to why her timeline was pruned. It seems as if it happened simply for her existence. And Renslayer is in fact the time agent, the Minutemen, whatever you really want to call her, who was kind of in charge in that moment of making sure that her timeline was reset, which is interesting. She mentions that you committed a crime against the sacred timeline, which is odd. Again, she's a child, she's a little kid, and that just kind of, again, more incentivizes us to not be a fan of the TVA. It looks cruel. It was from her perspective. She's a very young girl. I mean, maybe like 7-8 years old in this moment. And she goes through the exact same process that Loki did. Gets checked into the TVA, heads to the courtroom, where we actually do meet a different, I guess the title would be Renslayer. Is that right? Like, is that title considered Renslayer? Or is that something else?
I don't think the judges are called Renslayers. I really think that's just her last name, but I could be wrong.
Let's refer to it as the judge, because that's technically what it is. So basically the person in charge, it seems, just below the timekeepers. And in that moment, after being checked in, to the whole process, much like Loki was, Sylvie in this situation as a young child manages to steal Renslayer's TemPad. And in that moment, I actually went back when I watched it the second time, and it kind of looks like Renslayer allowed for her to do that. It didn't seem as if she was shocked that it happened, but she didn't really do anything to be like, oh, let's go after her. It kind of seemed as if she allowed it to happen, as she realized that it was quite cruel. But yeah, that was big. And then quickly after that, and I'll toss it to you, Savannah, we then see that it wasn't Sylvie at least having this memory or this thought. It was actually Renslayer who was thinking about that as she went to go meet the timekeepers through the golden elevators. I thought we were going to cut it there, but no, we do get our first reveal, our first visual of what the timekeepers looked like, and what it was like, basically a creepy red glowing eyes that were off in the distance, sitting in this odd formation, up on, I guess, these thrones, if you want to call it. And that was all before the title roll. That was all, a lot of fog. And that was everything that we got to see before the title rolled. The title literally had not rolled yet, and we got all this information that quickly.
Yeah, pretty insane. But again, I loved it. I will point out the actress who played young Sylvie, I guess we're going to call her.
Yeah.
Her name is Kaylee Fleming, and she played young Rey in Force Awakens and Rise of Skywalker. Yes.
I didn't realize that.
So I thought she looked familiar. Did a little research, and so she played young Rey. Thought I'd point that out.
Huh. That's a nice little tidbit. I did not know that. That kind of makes sense. I guess now thinking about, seeing her, that does make more sense.
But I did think she was just like playing in her room with toys. She wasn't doing anything. And then later on in the episode, which we'll get to, of course, she actually asks about like what caused the TVA to come get her, and we don't know.
Yeah, we never figured out.
I think that was pretty important for the coming episodes.
Yeah.
The fact that she was just taken as a kid for having done what appears to be nothing.
Yeah, and we imagine that it probably is nothing, given, actually, we don't know 100% who's obviously in charge of the TVA, who kind of made that order, why it was important, but it kind of gets down to this idea, instantly already talking about the sacred timeline. It seems as if for whatever reason, whether it was something that she caused or not, it impacted in some capacity, it did impact the sacred timeline. And with that, they say, nope, see you later, and that's where we end. So like I said, after the beginning credit scene, we then jump into Mobius meeting Renslayer, asking if he can have a chat with C20, the same agent that was affected, at least in the second episode. Back at, what was it, Roxcart, I believe, is where she's found. And she was the same agent who was taken at the beginning of that episode, the same agent who was put in the Enchantress visual where she thought that she was kind of in her history. Yeah, everyone knows who C20 is. I just, got to make sure that we're clear. And while Mobius is asking Renslayer if he can talk to her a little bit, get some information to help out with the case that they're on, we learn that she's dead. At least that's the official wording from Renslayer. She says that her mind was scrambled, and she was incredibly downhill. And I know that we'll talk more about, what being pruned actually means, that it doesn't actually mean being dead. But I was kind of surprised by this. I thought that she was probably going to be like held in some time cell or something, which turns out to be the case. At least we assume. But I thought that was kind of like shocking. Like I appreciated the fact that at least for a moment, I thought that everybody who was pruned was actually done for. And I kind of like when at least TV shows do that. Obviously that changes as time goes on, but it was a nice little nod to be like, yep, nope, she's gone. We took care of her, continuing to incentivize that the TVA is quite evil, Savannah.
Oh, totally evil. Like I felt that way all along, but this episode makes me kind of hate them. And I'm like all about now Sylvie wanting to destroy the whole thing. Like,
yes,
recruit me, I'll help you take them down. They're evil. When that happened to Mobius and we did not know that they didn't actually die, my jaw fell open. I'm like, how dare you? I was very upset.
Exactly.
Very upset.
Yes.
But it was a great twist, though, that what I thought wasn't actual was happening.
Yes.
So I appreciated that.
They did it well because it wasn't as if they instantly got rid of like a major character and then said, oh, yeah, they're gone. It's like, no, we know they're going to come back. Like, that doesn't happen. But they kind of teased us and it kind of led up to that moment, which I appreciated because that was...
They made it impactful.
Yes. And that's what you want to have, especially in a TV show. So that was very well done. So after that happens, we then head back to Lamentus 1, where we left off on episode 3. Lamentus 1 continues to explode. The planet is crumbling. Very sad and depressed. Sylvie and Loki kind of share a moment, basically thinking that their death is only moments away. They have a nice little moment with each other. And it appears that they find love with each other, in fact. And because of that, that does alert the TVA as that unforeseen event creates a branch from the timeline. And the TVA realizes that, and they're basically taken under custody. And I'm assuming that's what happened, right? I mean, I guess the unpredictability of them coming together, or at least, I don't really know the way to explain it, but maybe kind of finding unforeseen feelings for each other is what allowed for the TVA to spot them. That's what's official, right? I mean, that's what happened, correct?
I think so. It's still a little confusing.
Yeah.
Intentionally. They're going to explain more of that later. But I guess because they both represent chaos kind of finding chaos.
Yeah, that's well said.
That's just, it sends up a red flag for the TVA.
Right.
And it kind of goes back to last episode's message of they're better and more effective together.
Right.
So yeah, I think we're going to see a lot more of that in the next episode.
Agreed.
But yeah, it was interesting. It was definitely interesting. I wasn't really anticipating
that. Was not at all what we expected to happen. We thought, okay, they're going to find them,
know.
Which they did, but I thought they had the time stone, which who knows, maybe that still exists and that could come into play at some point, but yeah.
I thought that maybe last episode was an illusion created by one of them. I mean, yeah.
Also, I'm very relieved to know that was not the case. I'm glad it was not an illusion.
Right. They would really have to be careful to use that technique to actually make it, good for fans. But once again, like the show continues to surprise us.
It does. And then from there, Loki, much like in the first episode, he and Mobius have some really good interactions with each other. He instantly gets thrown into, I believe they labeled it as a memory prison with Lady Sif. And I believe the last time that we saw her, I believe, was Thor: The Dark World. I think you just watched that movie, didn't you?
I did just rewatch The Dark World, which is not as bad as I remember. Just throwing that out there for the universe.
There you go.
Okay. I think Loki has made it better. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
That's a good way to say it. Yeah.
That's why I went and watched it again, because I didn't really remember much of it, and I needed a Loki fix. And so yeah. But anyway, she's in The Dark World. I can't remember if she was in anything else after that. I'm not sure.
I want to say that's the last time, because I don't
I
personally
think
remember seeing
so.
her at all.
I think we'll go with that. We'll go with
Yeah.
that.
But for those that obviously did not see the scene, they basically recreate the same situation over again. He basically just keeps getting beat up by Lady Sif, which is pretty funny. It allowed for like a nice little similar situation. I guess it's kind of a nod as well, to when Doctor Strange, was that in Ragnarok? I think whenever Loki is kind of in that falling sequence for 30 minutes. Is
Yes.
that Ragnarok? Or is that
that's Ragnarok.
okay?
Yeah.
I wanted to double check, but yeah, that kind of was a nice little callback to me of like him being in the same situation where another loop is occurring, and he just can't get out of it. And it was pretty funny to see him reacting, trying to like get through it. Meanwhile, that's going on. Mobius decides to speak with Renslayer, so he couldn't talk to C20, and now he wishes to speak with Sylvie, to which she replies that she's not going to allow him to. Says that she's too dangerous, and we know for the reason why. As time goes on, the Renslayer says this. Mobius is a little bit frustrated by it. Says, "Hey, it's going to help me with the case." All he wants to do, Mobius, I feel bad. All he wants to do is just figure out the case. But Renslayer continues to make it that much more difficult. And to be honest, it's kind of her fault that why Mobius is already very curious in the first place. Why he can't meet with C20, because why is she dead? Like, why did we decide to get rid of her? What's going on with Lady Loki? What's going on with Sylvie? Like, why am I not able to speak with her? She says that she's too dangerous. But it's like at the same time, in Mobius's mind, we have a bunch of agents around. Like, we have all kinds of different people. There's surely no way that she'll be able to escape. Then, as Mobius decides to leave Renslayer's office, I guess is what we'll call it, we then see a pretty interesting exchange, which I was super excited about this, because that made me think, okay, this episode's about to be crazy. A very interesting exchange between Mobius and Hunter B-15. And as we know, Hunter B-15 just hasn't appeared to be the same. She was very kind of intense in the first and second episode. And then ever since then, something just seems off. And now we know 100%, and we believe this to be the case earlier, but we know 100% that she was in fact affected by Sylvie in episode 2 at Roxcart, and basically asks if Loki had told Mobius anything. And Mobius basically replies and says, yep, he basically just told me that the TVA is a lie. And you kind of see the little instant reaction on her face of like, okay, so she kind of has this realization that, whenever I was taken by Sylvie, she wasn't just messing with my mind. She was actually showing me, much like we saw with C20, another memory from her past, or at least let her know in some capacity. I imagine that she probably, in some way with her enchanting, allowed for her to see a prior memory, or maybe just straight out told her that she's a variant, and kind of went from there.
Yeah. I really didn't foresee them using her character. And I'm glad they did, because she's been just so like harsh and unfeeling, and realizing that she was affected by Sylvie's enchantment, and then having those two end up kind of teaming up to work together. I enjoyed that aspect. I really did. And it helped explain a lot more what was going on. So
Right.
And it really came into play later on in the episode.
Definitely. It did a very interesting exchange. And then, like I said, from there, Mobius and Loki then return back to his cell, where they have a similar talk as when they did in the very first episode. And this particular scene, this kind of sequence to me, Savannah, just made me realize how great that these two work together. Just the combination of bringing these two together, it's perfect. Like, it works well. They're fun. Like, they just have great chemistry on camera together. And, at times you can kind of mix Loki with the wrong character and it doesn't really work, just because Loki's kind of a different, I know we had this conversation, was it maybe yesterday? Kind of talking about, how it can be difficult sometimes to match a character like Loki or like Tom Hiddleston, and get them to match. And I feel like with Mobius, it just works. It just works so well. And every time they're on camera together, I just feel like it's perfect. Like, it's exactly what it needs to be.
Yes, I remember Kevin Feige came out ahead of Loki's release saying that he thinks Owen Wilson's Mobius and Tom Hiddleston's Loki like they're going to be a super popular duo
Yeah.
in the MCU. And I totally agree. I can watch those two just like talk and argue and joke with each other on screen all day. It's definitely like the core of the show.
Right.
And I thought that Owen Wilson just killed it this episode.
I agree.
Probably one of his best performances. And I think this is one of Tom Hiddleston's best as well, because he's still being kind of the mischievous, sarcastic Loki, but he had to show a wide range of emotions in this episode because so much happened and went down.
Right.
So
Like
props to those two. Give him an Emmy.
Exactly. Yeah. You really like agree wholeheartedly, that Mobius is just not listening to him. Like they sell it well. Yeah, they paid it off. The very beginning episodes in this sequence very, very well in this particular scene. Then kind of throughout this scene, Loki basically admits without officially admitting that he does have feelings for Sylvie, and then Loki basically out of frustration because of how well, again, that Mobius, the acting in this is just so good. Basically gets super frustrated and just says, you know what, you're all variants. You guys are all variants. You were taken from, different timelines by the timekeepers, and you've been enslaved by them. They wiped your memories. Basically tells them everything that we've been waiting to hear. And in this moment, whenever this is happening on screen, I'm literally like cheering to myself. I'm like, yes, he finally told them we got this to happen.
Yes.
We don't have to wait until episode 5 for this to be a reveal. It's happening right now. And again, so well sold. Mobius, despite laughing at this, there's just like a little look in his face that implies that he's a little bit nervous. Like he definitely has like a different kind of emotion, and I don't know how you do that. Like I don't know how you laugh on screen while also just so subtly having like a little bit of discontent with what was said. But again, just another major props to the acting of this episode. So that obviously occurs. And then Hunter B-15 goes to meet with Sylvie. So again, she has that quick exchange with Mobius. She feels very unsettled, and she basically says, you know what, I'm gonna go meet her. I'm gonna go to her cell. And they go back to 2070. Roxcart and Sylvie, when Hunter asks, says, hey, is this true? Show me that this is true. Show me that we are in fact variants. And she shows her prior history. She shows her prior history, much like she did with C20. And after this occurs, celebrating the case, are Renslayer and Mobius. They're in Renslayer's office. And again, with Mobius, things just seem off. Like he just seems like he feels slightly uncomfortable. You can tell he isn't happy. He doesn't look as motivated. He looks slightly confused. And Renslayer, of course, picks up on that. And then while Renslayer, I believe, is like putting a trophy almost. I think it was it the blade, I want to say, of
I think it was
Sylvie?
Sylvie's sword.
Right.
I think
because that was the
I
same
need to watch
sword.
that again.
Because I believe, now that I'm thinking about it, that's the same sword that we see at the end of the episode that Hunter ends up throwing to Sylvie. So I'm assuming she went to her office and grabbed that.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So
I didn't catch it the first time.
I didn't either until just now. I literally just thought about it. I'm like, oh wait, that's
well
what
done.
that was. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And then while they're obviously having that exchange, she's putting another trophy, which again, maybe we need to take another look at all those trophies, or whatever you want to call it, shrines, different objects that she has on her bookshelf. Mobius then switches her and his TemPads, and then eventually goes back to the library to see old footage, or I guess new footage, if you want to call it that, of C20 discussing the very thing that Loki mentioned, which that she knows that she's a variant. She knows that she's had number of different occurrences. She realizes basically the TVA is not real, or it is real, but it's a sham of what we thought that it would be. And again, I wasn't for sure, Savannah. I think at this point there was 22 minutes left. And this is when I kind of had the recollection of like, okay, like Mobius is figuring this out. Like we're really advancing the story, and you could argue that this story could very well be displayed across 2 episodes, and people wouldn't have batted an eye. So the fact that Mobius goes from not having, I would say he has slightly a little bit of a clue, like maybe a 1%, to being fully sold within 1 episode, and it worked so well, again, is just another testament to how impressive that this show is.
I agree. That's a very good point. Yeah, we covered so much ground, but it was natural and believable. And Mobius had his own little arc in just a portion of the episode, and that normally take a whole film
Right.
to achieve, and they did it within a couple of minutes, and I didn't even feel like it was rushed. So
Right.
yeah, good perspective, good point there.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
And then from there, like I said, Mobius realizes after seeing the footage of C20, he also does see Renslayer was in fact in that situation. In that, I don't know if it was a courtroom. I actually didn't really see the background of it. But I kind of put in the script here. Then the run begins. Mobius instantly is on Loki's side. They plan together while in Loki's time cell, and in such a great moment, the two unite again. Mobius is fully understanding of the fact and also believes now that the TVA is in fact up to no good. And when they walk out of the time window to go back to Loki's official cell, there stands Renslayer with a bunch of agents. And in that moment, Mobius goes from, trying to portray it as in like, oh yeah, I accidentally switched our Tim pads, my bad, to basically to being like, I know you're all frauds. And right as that happens, she decides to prune him. And again, in this moment, they sold it well. I was under the assumption, I'm like, this very well could be the end of Mobius in this series. I really hope that's not the case. And I wasn't 100% sold, but they got the reaction out of me, which is what they wanted, which was to me to believe that that very well could be the end of Mobius in the series. We obviously learned later that pruning does not officially mean that you're dead. It just means that you go to some random location of which we don't know. But I think that was very well sold, and I thought that Tom Hiddleston in that moment, Loki, had a very good reaction because they were on the same side. Again, it's just the amount of emotions that go back and forth, the great relationship that they have. You could tell it was just like they had that quick unification, and then all of it just goes down the drain. And that's such a common term in movies, but it just works, and it continues to work.
I agree. Yeah, that moment was definitely the most memorable of the episode. It was like an Infinity War moment.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it.
Like you're watching this character you've had this connection with, and you think, okay, this could be it. They may not come back.
Yeah.
So yeah, very impactful. Again, I was relieved later to find out that it doesn't mean that he's gone.
Right.
But yeah, that moment definitely got me for sure. And like I said too, Hiddleston's performance there, awesome.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it in terms of like, it was almost like an Infinity War Endgame type of death to where it just felt impactful. And it's kind of, I don't want to say it's weird, but I don't know, the TV show just does a great job. Like I felt like I watched a movie today, even though it was an hour, even though we're already jumping into it, it did feel like a movie almost ending, by the time that we hit the end credits. Which we'll get to in just a moment. So from there, Renslayer then joins alongside with Sylvie and Loki, and it's time for them to go ahead and meet their maker. It's time for them to meet the timekeepers. And again, another moment where I'm thinking, surely, we're going to have them walk through the golden elevators. They're getting ready to go look at the timekeepers, and we're probably going to, go to black, and we're going to have to see what happens next week. Does not happen.
The same thing.
Does not happen
thought
whatsoever.
The same thing. I was braced for the credits. I'm like, okay,
it's like you clench almost. You're just like, okay,
yes.
Like it's getting ready to happen. Don't do this to me. But whenever they're in the elevator, again, like we're thinking this is going to end. And I love what they do in this moment because it's quiet. They know that the audience is aware that at any moment the end credits could just pop up. You never really know. Like, sometimes it's 7 minutes, sometimes it's 8 minutes, sometimes it's very well like 10 minutes. Like we really don't know what the end credits are always going to be. So I thought it was so well handled in the moment, the directing in this case. And Sylvie gets the moment to ask Renslayer, all these years later, what she did. Like what did Sylvie do that made her timeline get wiped? To which Renslayer replies, and the acting that she had in this moment was, I think, the best that she's had so far throughout this entire series. I don't know her official name, outside of the show. But Renslayer gives the slightest little smirk because of how frustrated she's been having to deal with Lady Loki all these years, after whenever she was a child, escaping from the TVA. She smirks and has a moment and says, I don't remember. It was like,
that was infuriating.
Wow. Like that is harsh. Yet again, they're setting up Renslayer to be such a good, like evil villain. And I thought that in that moment, it was just like a little snap of like, wow, like, okay, that's where we are. But that was honestly one of my favorite moments of acting throughout the entire episode. Honestly, throughout the entirety of the series so far, was that moment where she wants to tell her, she wants to let her know, but again, she holds on, gives a little smirk, and basically says, I don't remember. Then
He's evil.
and only then, we meet the timekeepers. I was shocked. Like I said, I'm shocked. We are meeting the timekeepers. We're actually having cross dialogue, back and forth. The timekeepers are discussing things with Loki and with Sylvie. And I'll be honest, I was watching this on my TV. I did not have any idea what they were saying. I was quite confused. So I had to go on my computer later and go to the captions and actually figure out what was being said, because I was having a hard time. I don't know if anybody else had that issue.
Always watch with the captions.
I do
It's a
later
rule.
on. I do later on. I
Okay,
can't watch
okay.
it whenever I'm watching, because I read it and I find myself not like, I'm not surprised by the dialogue, and I want to be surprised by the dialogue. Like I want to live on the words of what's being said rather than know. So that's the way that I think about it. So like I said, we have this back and forth. Renslayer joins alongside Sylvie and Loki. They go to the timekeepers, and they have an interesting back and forth. But really, the timekeepers just kind of roast them, just say like, they don't deserve to exist, and it's time for them to be deleted. As that happens, in my head, I'm thinking, okay, something's got to occur, and we have the heroic return of Hunter B-15. She shows up and saves the day, throws Sylvie her, I don't know what the exact term would be. We'll just call it a sword. We'll just be basic with it. Basically removes their shackles, hands her the sword, and everything from there, Savannah, goes haywire. Big fight scene.
Big fight scene. Absolutely.
And this is it's an excellent fight scene as well. Like it was very, very good. Like I said, it felt kind of like the end of a movie almost, where we get the rematch of Renslayer and Sylvie and Loki basically knock out everybody. And then
I will interject.
Okay. Yes, go ahead.
I need to watch this scene over again.
Yes.
But I thought there was a lot of cuts
Mm-hmm.
in the fight scene, which is not usually my favorite thing. I like when it's like more of a continuous shot to really show off the choreography.
Yeah, I understand that.
So like epic situation. Not sure if I think it's the best fight scene I've seen in the series so far, but I'm more concerned what actually is happening like in a larger scale. So just throwing that out there. A lot of cuts, but it's cool. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was just, I think for me at least, I was more interested in terms of like, getting to see these two facing off. And again, it's just a testament to how good the story is between the two characters, because it didn't feel like, for example, Renslayer was fighting against this Loki variant that we don't really know a whole lot about, or vice versa. Like, okay, cool, she's fighting Renslayer, the evil character. Like they did such a good job.
It's like the stakes made it great. I got you.
The stakes made it great. The two characters, like we know everybody's situation, and it's meaningful. And that's the reason why I like Marvel movies so much. And I think the reason why, they've succeeded the way that they are is because it's not just some superhero or whatever. Like you really know the personality behind each and every single one of them, and they're all different and unique. And I feel like we had that in this moment. And again, Sylvie, after knocking everyone out, basically, then tosses her blade. I was surprised. I thought we were going to have a little bit of an exchange here. She then tosses her blade and cuts off the head of one of the timekeepers in a very creepy and interesting moment. It kind of felt, again, kind of Star Wars-ish, like whenever we saw Snoke get killed. Spoiler alert there. Like it kind of felt to me like that moment. Like it's almost identical in terms of like where the head rolls off and it just kind of pops in front of you. And I guess it is similar because we know that Snoke obviously wasn't who we thought that he was, and the timekeepers, were not who we thought they were either.
I like the parallel there between Star Wars and Marvel. Yeah, it's very true. I didn't think about that, but it's true. And when she threw her sword too, it was kind of like out of nowhere. Like it was a very random moment, I felt like. And
because they asked, "Can we talk?" and she's just like, "Nope."
And yeah, it was almost comical.
Yeah.
Not like in a bad way. It just caught me off guard. But I have to ask you this. Did you think, when you really saw the timekeepers, did you think they were real when you really got to see them?
I thought something was off. Something was definitely off.
Maybe it's just me, but when they showed them, I'm like, okay, either we just like they spent all their budget already, or these dudes aren't real. So.
Because I feel like I have that reaction sometimes whenever I watch movies, and I'm like, that doesn't look real. But
I know.
Maybe for the TV show's sake, I was thinking kind of a similar way. I'm like, I guess those are them. But like I said, something just felt off. Like it wasn't. Yeah. They had set up this entire time like no one's ever seen them before. No one's ever really talked to them. No one knows what they look like. No one knows what they sound like. You imagine them, honestly, I imagine them to be these giant beings almost that you can't really wrap your head around, like, you know, kind of like this mystical element. And while they were somewhat mystical, I said it just felt off. And it kind of has like this, that Wizard of Oz type angle that a lot of people speculated that we were going to have. It was basically the exact same thing, where it was like, okay, we got in here after all this work, and it almost seems too easy. Like, it just kind of seems a little bit like, really, like, that's it. And whenever she tossed the blade, in my head, I'm like, whoa, something's up. Like, either the timekeepers are not legit, they're not who they say they are, or they're just not real. And it turns out they're not real. They are, I forget the exact term that Sylvie says, but we could just, I guess, call them robots, maybe. I don't.
I think she called them, was it androids or AI?
She called them mindless androids, was the exact words that she said.
Okay. I just had a realization here.
Okay.
Remember in episode 1 of Loki, he had to go through that like metal detector, and they asked if he was like a robot, or maybe they even said an android. I have to go back and listen to it.
I can pull it up really quick while you're talking.
Please do. And I remember him being like, do people not know if they're, I'm going to say android. I'm not sure if he used that word or not. And then like Loki even like questioned, what if I don't know that I am? Like, see if they use the word android. Because I'm now intrigued by this. It might be nothing. Okay. She called them androids.
They asked if he's a fully robotic being, if you were born an organic creature and do in fact possess what many cultures would call a soul. And I'm going to see what he said. He said, this is so funny now that we're looking at this. Do a lot of people not know if they're robots? And he said, thank you for confirming. Now move through. And then he starts to move through. I'm waiting for like the line of dialogue to pop up just to get exactly what he says. And he says, what if I was a robot and didn't know it? And he said the machine would melt you from the inside out. And that's basically what they said. So they do say the term robot a decent amount.
But like, they're worried about other robots being in the TVA. I don't know if there's something there or not. And they showed that scene today with little Sylvie. Mm-hmm. She went through that metal detector thing. And then in Falcon the Winter Soldier, he talked about like the major threats of the time, one being like robots or androids or something like that. So I don't know. Maybe
there's
just
definitely something
at straws here.
It's either a callback for sure that they did that, or there's a deeper meaning behind it for sure. There has to be something related to that. And I'm glad that you mentioned that because I didn't even think about it until just now. So it is quite interesting. So just to kind of wrap things up, as we said, because there is still a giant thing that we haven't talked about yet. So again, we figure that they're all robots, timekeepers, and I noticed, I actually went and did look at the captions. I didn't realize this at the time. I thought the entire, whatever you want to call it, what would be this room, this giant area, again, whatever you want to label it as. I realized that in the captions, the timekeepers actually laugh. It says in the captions that the timekeepers start laughing, then everything starts to power down. So I didn't even realize whenever I first watched it that they actually laugh like in their faces, like, "Ha, we fooled you." Like, I thought it was more of like, okay, cool, like they got that portion of the TVA, when in reality that is not at all the case. And then right as Loki and Sylvie start to plan what they're going to do, they're asking, who really is in charge of the TVA. Loki basically says they're going to get through this. And right as he starts to tell, of course, Sylvie, technically himself, which is really odd, I guess confessing his love for her, talking about how he, likes her, whatever you really want to label it as. Renslayer pops up out of nowhere and prunes Loki. And in that moment, it was very well done. It was nice and subtle. I did not see it coming. I thought that like we were actually in this moment getting ready to see it, and I did not think about Renslayer because of the shock that we had just witnessed. So again, another great sequence of directing in that moment to kind of instantly lead us away. Like, no one's really thinking about where Renslayer's at in this moment. And then they get in this little fight, Sylvie and Ren, and much like, in my opinion, that Renslayer did whenever Sylvie was young, Sylvie now this time around basically does the exact same thing, spares her life, but Sylvie says, "You're going to tell me everything." And there, I thought the episode was over. But on my way to get coffee this morning, I'm talking to you about the episode, and you say, "What do you think about the post-credit scene?" I'm like, "What post-credit scene?" You're like, "Are you serious? You didn't tune in to see the post-credit scene?" I literally paused it right before the post-credit scene happened. Literally right before it happened. I was watching a little bit of the credits, and I didn't see it. So I literally, right before we did this, watched it all over again and saw the post-credit scene. What did you think of the post-credit scene?
I'm not sure what to think of it.
Yeah.
Again, it confirmed that Loki is not dead, which that's great. But it also showed other variants of Loki and what
Yes.
appears to be New York totally destroyed. You even see like a crumbling Avengers Tower in the background. And I think we saw a shot of this in some of the promotional material from the beginning of like the series release.
Right.
So yeah, in one of the Lokis is Richard Grant, who was also in Star Wars, by the way, dressed as old Loki, but like in a very comic book costume.
Definitely.
It kind of reminded me of in WandaVision when Vision wore his like comic costume.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, that was interesting. So I guess we're going to see Loki interact with more Loki variants next episode, and hopefully figure out when and where he is, and hopefully Sylvie's going to get some more answers for us.
Oh man, like I said, just when we thought again that we've seen everything cool, much to my surprise, we have just another major reveal at the very end. So my goodness, what an episode. What an episode. And I want to ask you, which we'll get into a few questions before we, kind of close things out for this particular segment. Where does this episode rank in your eyes amongst the best that we've seen from Marvel TV shows, or I guess maybe Disney created TV shows, if we want to like maybe include like Mandalorian and stuff like that? Both seasons. Like, where does this, I guess you could say in terms of Disney Plus created TV shows, where does this episode 4 of Loki rank for you?
As I've said before, and this remains, Mandalorian season 2 finale with Luke Skywalker is still number 1. It has not been dethroned.
Yes. Okay.
I don't expect it to be, just being honest. But at this moment, I would say that this episode's probably at number 2. I think so. If not, I don't feel it'll stay number 2 after I watch it over again. I don't know what's gonna come next week, and what's this finale gonna be like. So it may move down with more Loki episodes, but it's gonna be probably in the top 5 for sure.
Yeah, I agree. This to me currently sits as well at number 2. I want to move it into number 1, honestly. But as you said, the reveal at the end of Mandalorian season 2 was incredible. That one's very, very hard to top. But honestly, like maybe episode 1/2, and then now episode 4. Like I at least have 2 Loki episodes in my top 5 for sure. Like there's no doubt about it. I at least have 2. I'd have to really go back and look. Maybe 3 in my top 5. Probably another one's gonna be a Mandalorian episode. If I had to think, but I don't know. Then maybe like a WandaVision episode that I really liked. Because I liked Falcon and Winter Soldier, but none of the episodes to me stood out as like, okay, that was the episode that blew me away. It was kind of the overall series that I liked. But no episode kind of had the same impact. It did very much so.
Yeah. Maybe we ought to think about this, and then for a future segment we can like rank our Disney Plus shows.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Once Loki is done, we have a little bit of a pause until these shows pick up again later on in the year.
That's a good point. Yeah, that'd be fun. Like you're talking about ranking individual show episodes, correct?
Yeah, or something along those lines.
Right, I got you. Yeah, that'd be fun. I agree. So with that, I guess like I said, a few more questions to ask about this moving forward. So the immediate thought that I had whenever Renslayer has the quick little fight with Sylvie, and obviously Sylvie wins, and she says, "You're going to tell me everything." My instant thought was, okay, why does, in that moment when the head, is cut off of the robotic timekeepers, Renslayer doesn't seem like all that affected. Like, she doesn't seem shocked. Like, you know, if I were, for example, in Renslayer's position and I was reporting to these beings that I thought were real, and then someone comes and just kills them and reveals that I've been actually speaking to robots the entire time, I'd be shocked. And I honestly would probably be more on the side of the person that, you know, just did that, rather than first off, you know, prune Loki and then try to take her down as well. I think that was her signifying that, okay, they're now aware of the secret too, and I need to get rid of them so that no one else knows what this giant plan actually is. And so that's what my personal take is on it. But the one thing that, and I don't know if this is just strictly because of, you know, what they wanted to sell to us, and it probably is that, but my theory of that being the case changes up a little bit, because whenever she first goes to meet the timekeepers at the beginning of the episode, Savannah, she looks terrified. Like, Renslayer honestly looks terrified to go and meet them. And so,
that's a good point.
Like, she looks scared. Like, she's walking into the elevator, looking up, almost shocked that, like, she has to go and meet with them again. But yeah, she does not look composed. Like, you'd imagine someone walking in there in that moment would, you know, would almost appear that everything's cool if they're like, okay, like, I get that this is the case. Or, like I said, maybe that's just them selling acting, and then it doesn't really make sense, but they're doing it just to sell it. But it is kind of strange. Like, I really don't know where Renslayer sits in this position. Like, do you think that she was aware of the entire time that the timekeepers were fake? Or do you think that that was also a surprise to her? Was it a hunch that she had? Like, where do you think that that ranks? Or how is she affected by this, if at all?
So, okay, she totally knew that the timekeepers were fake. That's what I think.
Yeah.
But you have a good point. Earlier on in the episode, she did look shaken. So maybe in the whole Wizard of Oz motif that we're in, there is a man behind the curtain in that room we just haven't seen yet.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll see him, which is probably going to be Kang the Conqueror.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so I think she knew all along that they weren't. Well, I'll say this: beginning of the episode, that flashback where she takes young Sylvie, she wasn't in the role that she is now in the TVA. Like, clearly she's worked her way up or climbed the ladder. You know what I mean? Right. So I don't know if from the get-go if she knew that they weren't real, but at this point in Loki, she knows that they're not real.
Right. But whenever she does that, though, remember that was the thought that she had as she went to go and see the timekeepers. Whenever she saw them at the beginning, that was from like our current time. Like,
I see.
Because she was the, whatever you want to call her, she was the judge at the beginning whenever she went, and she's still the judge, you know, at the very end as well. So, like, because I thought the same thing in my head. I was like, oh, that's, you know, well, of course she's scared because she doesn't know who she's dealing with. Unless that was like her first time maybe seeing, like, again, like, we don't really know 100%, I feel like, whenever that happened. So maybe that was like another little flashback that we're not given information on, where, you know, maybe that was her first time seeing.
I'm gonna have to watch her scenes over again now, because now I'm questioning things.
I know, because there's a lot of different directions I could go with it. My immediate reaction is that, you know, it plays out the way that we thought it would, but the beginning was just simply her kind of selling it to us, the audience, that she's scared to meet the timekeepers. Again, making us think that, you know, she's terrified to talk with them, unless that like motif goes away and, you know, basically everything powers off because she knows that everything's going to power off. Like, maybe there's a situation that whenever she does talk with the timekeepers, like, she's not afraid of what's in front of her. She's afraid of what's getting ready to happen. And maybe it's whenever Kang reveals himself, or, you know, whatever. Like, maybe she's not afraid of the characters that sit in front of us. Maybe she's afraid of, I don't know, like, maybe this situation whenever she walks in the room, it's actually different. You know, those things are already powered off, and the actual being comes out from nowhere. So it appears that she's scared of the fake timekeepers, but she's actually not. She knows that it's a ruse. I don't know. I'm curious how in detail that they're going to be with her in that.
I really think she knows they weren't real. And I really think that she's dealing with somebody else in there.
I agree. Or maybe the timekeepers, again, obviously they're speaking on behalf of somebody. Like, They are, again, I forget the exact term that Sylvie says. They are mindless AI or something. I forget. But what? They're controlled by somebody, right? Like somebody is talking through them.
I would think so. I would think so.
So maybe she speaks to them thinking that, or not thinking that.
Well, if they're AI, maybe not.
Yeah, that's true.
And if regard to AI, does that explain a little bit more about Miss Minutes and how she's able to?
That was my next question. I'm gonna ask you, like,
yeah.
how does Miss Minutes fit into all of this?
See, I know from interviews that we haven't seen the end of Miss Minutes. They've teased more of her is to come.
Yeah.
We, of course, didn't see any of her this episode, but I think the whole artificial intelligence thing has to do with her too.
Mm-hmm.
How? I'm not sure. I really have to kind of chew on that a little bit. But yeah, let's say if Kang is the man behind the curtain in the Wizard of Oz reference, has he kind of programmed these things to run the TVA for him?
Right.
And is Miss Minutes and the Timekeepers part of that? You know what I mean? That's a possibility.
Yeah. I just don't know how Miss Minutes comes into
connected.
this. I just don't know how.
I thought maybe that she was also a variant in a way.
Yeah.
Maybe she is. I don't know. But there are definitely some little like clues they've dropped that I think we're finally going to get that had some connections in this episode that I think are really going to get fleshed out here in the next couple episodes.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
there's something there for sure.
Agreed. Yeah, actually, it catches me off guard. I feel like all the way throughout this, and then like I said, also when we talk about Kang the Conqueror, I know that in the comic books, at least, that Renslayer has a very close connection to him because I think that she's like almost in love with Kang the Conqueror, so maybe she's doing the dirty work of him. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot for us to sit on. Again, I feel like, you know, we talk about the episode and I have a moment to think about things, and then it's like I get time to dwell on it. I'm like, oh, like my thought process on this is totally off. Like I need to advance to this. But one thing that I will say quickly before we round things out and maybe, you know, ask one last question. One thing that I do notice that if you are looking right now, I'm paused at 40:25 on episode 4 of Loki. Now, I don't know if this is anything or not, but if you do notice the structure of where they're, you know, battling at is interesting. And it almost looks like there are tunnels that like they're walking through. Like there are definitely structures that are like holding open everything and whatnot, but it looks as if like, and I don't know for a fact, but like the design of it almost kind of looks a little bit like a movie theater toward the back, to where like there's almost like this little opening where a logo is. And again, I don't know if anyone's in there or, you know, what, but it almost looks like there could be tunnels, for example. And like there's like these little stair things that are all the way throughout. And it's just kind of, it's interesting because I don't know if anyone could be in there, but why does this structure need to be as big as it is, you know?
It's an interesting thought.
Like if you, at one point I'm paused now at 3937, there's actually another level to this building. Like it almost looks as if the entire structure of whatever this is almost like looped, if that makes sense. Like there's another bottom, like you can almost see like a second floor. You look across, there's another similar floor to this with that same logo everywhere. Like it's these weird structures with stairs that, again, it could just be for effect, but it is interesting because it just looks as if everything's being repeated over again. So, you know, just things to look out for. I'm probably gonna, you know, again, stare at all this stuff for hours on end and try to put together my own thoughts and theories on it. But where do you think we go from here? Just a quick thought, maybe just one theory in particular that you have. What do you think happens for the future? And pick this up however you'd like, whether it's with Sylvie and Renslayer, whether you think we're, you know, starting things off where the pruning is, like just in general, a theory that you have for the rest of the series. Or where do you think the story advances from here, I guess? It could be it could be as specific or non-specific as you think.
I think next episode, make a prediction. I
Yeah.
think next episode we're gonna see Kang, and if not Kang, we're gonna see the person running the show.
Okay.
Like we're gonna see who really is behind the TVA.
Do you think that whoever, let's say it's not Kang, do you think it's a character that we're already aware of, or do you think it's someone totally different? Because I'd almost be mad if it's someone totally different that we've never heard of before. If it's like a comic book character that makes sense, that's fine. But I almost want it to be someone that's already been on screen, or someone that we're at least aware of in some capacity. Because if it's just some random being that's like, oh yeah, I was in charge of it the whole time, it's like, I don't really care. Like, I don't really know who you are. Like, this has been a very personal. Go ahead.
What if it's another Loki?
That's what I'm thinking too.
Like, what if Loki's both the hero, Loki's plural, is the villain and the hero of the show?
Would you be angry with that? If it was just like a big, different version of Loki, would you be angry?
I would not be. However, the fact that Kang is already cast in Quantumania, they're going to have to explain that.
Yeah.
There's got to be some sort of connection. So if Kang is not the one behind the scenes of the TVA, he has to have some sort of relevance to it.
I know I've said this, with other TV shows. I just don't want this one to disappoint me. Like, I don't want the ending.
I feel the same.
I don't want the ending of this to be a disappointment where it's like, okay, we get, this incredible storyline, and then we get to the very end and it just kind of falls a little bit flat. Like, it's almost too easy to take down this ominous character. I want it to make sense, but also not make sense. Like, I want to leave this entire TV show, or whatever you really want to label it, this Loki show, and almost like be confused, yet I don't know how to explain my feelings on it. I really just don't want to be disappointed by the finale, and I feel like I would be slightly disappointed if it was just another Loki variant, because everybody is the Loki variant, and then now with the introduction of these other Loki variants at the very end of at the very end credit scene, like I feel like it would almost be too predictable for it to be Loki, like just another one driving it all. Plus, I don't know how that would make sense given the idea of this sacred timeline, because somebody is trying to keep this timeline, this sacred timeline, for whatever reason. They want their timeline to be intact. And so if Loki already comes from that originally, his character has died, how would it make sense? And I guess they could tell it, but I feel like it would almost be not believable if it was just Loki again.
Yeah, it's true too. I'm staying on the theory that it's Kang.
I hope so. I feel like that currently looks like the best possible ending that we could get. And I know that could totally change with, again, the editing, directing, all those things that could quickly be changed. But I hope it's not just like, oh yeah, it was just this person. Okay, cool. Like, all right, awesome. Like,
yeah.
I don't want it to fall flat. But like I said, it almost feels like in every single TV show that we've had so far for Marvel, the evil villain is never who we thought that it was, or at least it is who we thought that it was, but it's not. It's like we kind of expected it to be this person, and I hope that Loki goes in a different direction to where, if it were to be Kang, for example, a majority of the audience would be like, who the heck is this? And I would like that. I just hope that it's not, again, like the Agatha all along type of situation on WandaVision.
Agreed.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But again, feel free to let us know your thoughts in the comments on this episode. Where does this one rank for you? Is it your favorite, episode that we have seen so far in Disney Plus, or even just in Loki? I know a lot of people are saying this is their favorite Loki episode yet. It's one of their favorite Disney Plus episodes that they've seen so far. But just in general, where does this one rank for you? Feel free to let us know. And with that, we are going to move on to our final segment of the podcast, and it's called The Draft. Now, we've come to this conclusion. We've come to this idea that we are going to do a draft, Savannah, for the Olympic Games. But we are doing a draft. So for those that, obviously know how drafts work, it's a process of going back and forth, taking picks, taking, different options for different things. But we are doing it And you're way better at explaining things than I am. But we're basically choosing Marvel characters who are going to, in this situation, compete in Olympic Games, the Summer Olympic Games, and we're basically putting together a lineup. So if you pick somebody, I don't have the ability to pick them. Back and forth style. Did I explain it correctly, or did I not? I may have not explained that well at all.
I think you did.
How would you explain it?
Well, I think you explained it very well. Yeah,
Okay.
we're doing like a draft,
Okay.
but we're doing it in regard to the Olympic Games to try to kind of keep things
Keep the
current
theme.
to
Yeah.
what's going on. You know, like we did summer movies last week because it was the first day of summer. The Olympic trials have been going on because the Olympics takes place here in a couple of weeks.
True.
So we're kind of we're making a MCU draft, but from a Olympic competition.
Yeah. Well said. Okay. There we go. See, I just need you to explain it for me. It just works a lot better. So we're going to be doing this. Essentially, you have 8 events, and we'll have this somewhat. We'll explain a little bit more as time goes on. And I want everyone to do this along with us for sure. We have 8 events. We looked at a few lists online. We also combined a few of our thoughts as well. But we're doing 8 events: gymnastics, track, swimming, basketball, soccer, volleyball, shooting, and field. And essentially we get one person, we get one character, and we're basically trying to win more events than the other person. And I guess at the very end of this, when we look at it, we can just be honest with ourselves, and say who we thought had the best draft of the two, who maybe won more events, I guess is the overall idea of this. So your goal is to try and win, 5, I guess, in comparison to me. And kind of maybe make our case quickly for each event and see who wins. And maybe we also let the listeners, the viewers, whatever audience, decide who maybe had the better team, and we'll go from there. Does that sound good?
Sounds good to me. I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay, so I will give you the first pick, and again, you can choose any category that you want. As we said, gymnastics, track, swimming, basketball, soccer, volleyball, shooting, field. You can pick whoever you would like, in any category that you would like.
Well, we should pick what sport we're going to talk about first, right?
Well, I feel like it's kind of across the board. So if you want to pick somebody, for example, in volleyball, you make that pick, and so that person is now on your team.
Okay, but what sport are we doing first?
You
That's what I
pick
need
any
to know.
sport you want. We're gonna go all across the board.
Okay, let's do swimming.
Okay, so you're going with swimming first.
Let's go swimming.
All right. So who are you picking?
Okay. I'm going to pick, let's see. I'm going to pick Captain Marvel because physics and form and matter don't seem to be a problem for her.
Okay, that's a good pick. Captain
Thank
Marvel is
you.
always a solid pick. Very underrated, I feel like. I gotta write your.
Honestly, not my fave,
I understand that.
but her abilities, right up there.
It makes sense. Okay, so you went with swimming first. Solid. Now, I'm gonna personally go for me. What I think is a very obvious. Oh shoot, maybe not. Crap. I'm thinking to myself. I'm like, well, there's no way she could get through this one, but you actually could. Okay. So I'm gonna go with track, and there should be no way that I lose this one. So I'm trying to guarantee myself that I get one category right.
Okay.
And this technically is a Marvel character. I'm going with track, and I'm going with Quicksilver.
Oh gosh.
So
Dang
so like I said, that's my strategy. I don't think I in any way can lose track now. There should be no way.
Okay. All right.
Yep. Have any ideas where you're going?
Am I going to a different sport, or I need to
You pick
also
any sport.
draft?
Any sport. You can pick any sport you want out of the 8 that we have. So for example,
Read them to me again.
all the categories. Okay. So we have gymnastics, track, swimming, basketball, soccer, volleyball, shooting, and field.
Okay. Can I go ahead and draft someone for track?
Well, sure. Actually, you can pick any so for example, you can't pick anyone else for swimming now. You're locked in. You have your pick for
Right.
swimming, which is Captain Marvel.
Right.
So you
I
can
got
pick
you.
across the board the other 7 games. You choose whatever category and character you want.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and get mine in for track,
Oh gosh.
and
Okay.
I'm gonna go Doctor Strange. The reason why is he can move time and distance, so he could beat Quicksilver, possibly.
Yeah. I feel like he's kind of a cheat code though. Like I feel like it almost has to be
Hey,
believable.
I
I
think
feel
it's
like he'd be
perfectly
disqualified if he just
believable.
popped up. I feel like he'd just be disqualified. Although I didn't think about this. He could just find a different universe in which he wins somehow. Maybe Quicksilver like trips.
Exactly. Like,
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
he has
You have
to
a
win.
case to be
Yeah.
made. You have a case to be
Thank
made.
you.
Okay. I'm looking across the board here. You took one of my picks. I was actually going to choose Captain Marvel for a different sport. I'm going to move on to shooting, and to no surprise, I'm going to go with Hawkeye.
Solid choice.
Like that was made for him.
Yeah, I don't think I really can beat that. I'm gonna think on it though.
You never know.
It's true. It's true. Okay. We think.
So far, your team consists of Doctor Strange and track,
Right.
and Captain Marvel and
Hey,
swimming. Sorry, no, I'm
it
laughing.
holds up.
It's just funny to think about that. That's like, a sentence being said.
It is. Okay, I'm gonna do field.
Okay, you're doing
And
field.
I'm going,
Cool.
I'm gonna do field. I'm going Hulk.
Solid pick. That one's gonna be hard to beat.
Like even in like high jump and long jump and hammer throw and every discus, I think he's got it beat.
That's a good one. Let me write that down for my notes so I don't pick Hulk, because I was going to pick Hulk next at 4 field. So, okay. All right. Hulk locked in. Okay. I have like a little list in front of me of some Marvel characters. I'm trying to use this one character because they're kind of overpowered in my opinion, but I don't know what sport to utilize them in. Okay, I'm going to jump to gymnastics, and I'm going to go with Spider-Man.
Oh my gosh, of course.
Yes. I'm happy with that pick.
That's a good
I think that's
pick.
going to be a hard one to beat. Because that one to me is
Yeah.
one of the most difficult ones, because you actually have to do it. Like, in fairness, like in track, there are a lot of characters who have wings, a lot of characters who can run fast. And other categories it can work the same way. But in gymnastics, like you actually have to be like, you have to actually do gymnastics.
No, that's a solid pick. Good point. Good point.
Thank you.
Okay, 1 second. I'm going through my list here.
No problem. I'll recap my team quickly. So I have
Okay.
Spider-Man in gymnastics. I have, I'll recap everything actually for all of us. In gymnastics, I have Spider-Man. In track, I have Quicksilver. You have Doctor Strange. In swimming, you have Captain Marvel. In basketball, we have nothing. Soccer, we have nothing. Volleyball, we have nothing. In shooting, I have Hawkeye. And in field, you have Hulk.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna do.
I'm actually really quick. I'm going to put this in front of your eyes. I'm going to put this in the document that we both have so you can see what's going on.
I've actually been keeping track.
Oh, are you? Okay, cool.
I'm right. Yes.
Cool.
Thank you,
All right.
though.
No
Thank
problem.
you. Okay,
Proceed.
I'm gonna do basketball.
Okay.
And I'm gonna do Steve Rogers, Captain America, and let me explain why.
Shoot. Okay.
He is a fantastic aim with that shield.
That's okay. That's fair.
You know what I mean? So like when you're shooting the ball, you gotta have pretty good aim. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Basketball is a game of angles.
True.
Just saying.
True.
He's also has super speed, very coordinated, and he's a team player. So Steve Rogers, Captain America for basketball.
That's a good one. I just thought about this. I'm instantly going to go to basketball as well.
Okay.
And I'm going to pick Thanos. Think about it. Thanos versus Captain America in a game of basketball. Thanos is taller. He is stronger. Posting up Captain America, who is big, but we learned in the fight that Captain America clearly needs the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe in order to take down Thanos. So I think from a basketball perspective, Thanos is well coordinated. He has great balance. I'm going to go with Thanos. My pick.
Okay.
I was going to pick him for field, but I just feel like that's a lost cause now. Because Hulk is clearly going to jump farther than Thanos. There's no doubt.
Yeah. All right. So we haven't done anything for soccer. Haven't done anything for volleyball. I feel like those are going to be kind of odd.
Yeah, they're going to be hard.
Yeah. And I haven't done anything for shooting yet. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do my gymnastics pick. Granted, I think you kind of have that taken care of.
Thank
but
you.
I feel like the only other Marvel character to kind of who would fit into gymnastics and do decently would be Wanda Maximoff as the Scarlet Witch.
Okay.
She's kind of artistic in her movements anyway, you know.
I can see that.
And if not, she can create a reality where she wins. So
fair. Okay. I can see that. I'm trying to think of like where to go from here. Like what sport should I jump to? What sport was that again you had? Okay, you did gymnastics. That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
This is difficult for sure. I'm not sure which sport I should jump to because I want to try to contest you with swimming because Captain Marvel is a very good pick for sure.
Thanks.
Darn it. Okay, I'm gonna jump to this one. I'm gonna go volleyball, and I'm going to pick Black Panther. He's very athletic, can jump super high. And think about this. I just thought about it. So whenever he gets like dealt damage, he has like the power to quickly output it back. If he gets hit with the ball, he can then put it back up in the air and then use that same energy along with his already and spike it in the face of the opponents.
That's actually pretty great. Yeah,
Yes.
volleyball is perfect for him.
I totally like scrambled in picking him because I'm like, okay, cool, he's very athletic. It should work. But now I'm more confident in that. Black Panther.
That's
joining
solid.
the team. Welcome to the team. So
All right. So I'm going to do the same
okay.
with volleyball. And my pick for volleyball is going to be Ant-Man.
Okay, that's fair. That's a good one.
Yeah,
Solid one.
because he can of course shrink, but he can also become giant and like pop out of nowhere and spike the ball in your face.
But think about it.
So-
How often can he do that though?
He was getting better at it in Endgame.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I'm just saying. I'm just curious. Volleyball is a long game, so you know.
He can deliver when it counts. You need to probably save that up through the game and then
That's
like
fair.
at match point. So
That's
I'm gonna
fair.
do Ant-Man. And Scott Lang is pretty athletic when he was like trying to steal stuff in
That's a
his
good point.
original
That's true.
film. Like dude's kind of like, you know, nimble.
Sure.
That's the word. So he has decent reflexes.
True. Very true. All right. Gonna move on to soccer, I think.
I have no idea for this one. I'm trying to figure it out right now.
Like I have a pick in my head, but I'm trying to think of like how this could be clever. Man. Okay, I think. Wait, did you already have this pick? Hold on, I might change it. Well,
What are you doing?
I'm gonna go. Okay, I'm gonna go with. Okay, I'm changing my pick. Field Vision.
Can you do that?
What?
Wait. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. I'm with you. Okay, you haven't picked field yet. All right.
Yes, I've not picked Field yet. I'm gonna go
Okay.
Vision. think about it. He almost has the ability to like not have any problems when it comes down to strength. So like he could lift anything. He's unbelievably powerful. He has the ability to phase through things. He also can be very quick. So I'm imagining, you know, during like the long jump, for example, he can jump very far distances because he can also slightly fly. Now, granted, is it as far as Hulk? Probably not. But he may have the ability to contest him in a few events. So I'm going to go Vision.
I think it's a pretty good pick. I actually would like to see an Olympic event between Hulk and Vision.
Yes.
In field. Yeah, that's good.
Because I could have gone, like, I was thinking about maybe going Drax, for example, but I'm like, he's just, you know, he's not as strong as Hulk. I also thought about going Korg. Also, not as strong as Hulk though, because like you really outmuscled me with that pick. So, yeah.
Good pick, creative pick.
Thank you very much. So I have swimming left, you have shooting left, and none of us have anything for soccer.
Okay, I'm gonna go soccer here.
Okay.
Are you ready for this?
I am a little bit nervous, but I'm ready.
All right, good. You should be. I'm going Shang-Chi for soccer.
Why did I not think of Shang-Chi?
That dude can kick.
Yes, he can.
Yes.
That's a good one.
Thank you.
Darn it.
Boom.
Very, very good pick. That's fair.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm quite proud of it myself.
I wish I would have gone with that one. Soccer. Shang-Chi's very good. I'm trying to think of how to contest that. I still have swimming next. I have no clue who to go for that. I guess I'll also go for soccer. Someone who's very underrated, I think, not just in movies, but also just power in general, is the person I'm getting ready to pick. Oh, wait, I just thought of something very clever for soccer. Although, I don't know if this works. Darn it. I'm going back in my head of like how in a soccer game, this person can be very useful to their team. Okay, I'm debating between two people. Should I go for the villain? Should I go for the hero? I'm going to go with Wasp for soccer. Because think about it. She has an unbelievable power, much like Ant-Man, but she can fly, right? So she has the ability to get around pretty quickly. She can be like normal size whenever she wants, but she has the same power whenever she's small. So if she has, you know, a run with a goalie, for example, she can shrink and kick the ball, and the goalie's going to have no idea where she's coming from. And maybe she can also shrink the ball as well. Boom.
Interesting.
There we have it.
Interesting.
Okay.
Hey, that's pretty solid. I'll give you that.
Thank you. Thank you. I think Reagan agrees as well.
Yes, he does. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, no, you're fine. You're fine. So, last pick for you is shooting. Last pick for me is swimming. What do you got? Who are you going forward with shooting? Who's going to be able to contest Hawkeye?
Okay. Granted, Hawkeye is like the pick for that. I fully acknowledge that. However, I think Star-Lord could put up a pretty good fight.
Okay.
Think of his weapon. He has like a specific kind of gun. It's his go-to.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of characters do that.
All right.
So
it's good.
I'm going Star-Lord.
Yeah, it's good.
I know. I'm doing what I can. You picked Hawkeye for shooting.
I'm joking. All right, I guess I'm the last pick. Now for swimming. You chose Captain Marvel. I guess I'm going to go like a similar way about it. I'm going to go with Iron Man. Surprised we haven't picked Iron Man for any event yet. I thought you might go Iron Man for shooting.
I've thought about him.
I thought you might go for him for shooting.
Yeah, but I didn't feel like he had like an actual, like he uses like a pulse thing. He didn't actually like use a, I don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
I feel like he's kind of a jack of all trades, but maybe master of none.
That's a good way to put it. So
yeah, I thought about it for a lot.
My thought process in swimming, much like Captain Marvel, has the ability to kind of like, soar through the air. Granted, Captain Marvel is quicker because she literally can, fly unbelievable speeds. But Iron Man is crafty. So, I don't know, maybe it's a long distance race. We didn't signify if it was, however many meters or, whatever, if it's the backstroke, maybe. Like I said, he's a jack of all trades. Maybe he knows how to do the backstroke. Maybe he knows how to do the butterfly. Maybe he knows how to do whatever. I think he could be very crafty in that element. So I'm going to go with Iron Man.
That's a great try.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Problem.
So
No problem.
just to recap, how about we go from event to event? First one,
Okay.
Gymnastics. Not to be rude, I think I win that. I think Spider-Man
You do.
beats out.
I'm gonna be
Scarlet
100%
Witch.
honest here. So you have to be 100% honest with me as well.
I will.
But yeah, you definitely locked up Gymnastics.
Okay.
No question.
So I'm currently up 1-0. Now track. I have Quicksilver. You have Doctor Strange. I hate to do this to you, but Quicksilver wins. It's a race. It's a race. Right?
What is the definition of a race?
I mean, if we're talking about track, it is.
Isn't it getting from one place to another quicker than the other? Because if so, I do
technically.
think Doctor Strange, by definition, could win.
Yeah, but like, okay, let's say that Doctor Strange wins one event. There are multiple track events, right?
Okay.
There's 800 meter, there's the mile, there's, 1600 meter, there's a 5K, there's a marathon. Like there are all kinds. And granted, while I believe that Doctor Strange could win a few of those, I think that Quicksilver is made for the sprinting. And I think as fast as, because like think about it, the gun shoots off, Doctor Strange has to be present for that. So
Yes.
whenever they're running around the entire field, Quicksilver is going to be there before he can even like phase through to get to the other side.
That's possible. That's possible. I will. Let's come back to this one.
Okay, we'll come back to track.
Let's come back to this one. Okay.
Moving on to swimming. I have Iron Man. You have Captain Marvel. I agree, Captain Marvel. I'm just gonna go and say it now.
Yes.
We'll go quick with it. I think Captain Marvel for
Yes.
sure. This one's interesting. Basketball. Thanos or Captain America? Give me your case for Captain America.
All right. You only win a basketball game if you make a basket. Cap has serious aim with that shield.
But that's different than a basketball.
I mean, like I would think a shield would be a lot harder to use than a basketball. Plus, he's got super strength, super speed. I think he wins. Granted, is Thanos like a huge object near the basket? Sure, but like Cap could probably shoot the basketball from across the court and even get near Thanos and win and score. So,
but when we do talk about basketball, obviously it's important to make sure that you are scoring, but defense wins championships, does it not?
defense is important, but again, you don't win a game until you make a basket.
But I don't know how often Captain America is going to score on Thanos. Because Thanos can literally just smack him out of the way.
That would be a foul.
Correct. But if
I
he's
think
backing up
Thanos
into
would
him,
foul out in like the first 30 seconds of the game.
see, I think this is a situation where it's almost like Shaq, for example, versus like a very skilled point guard. Granted, no offense to Shaq, is one player more athletic than the other? Well, I guess Shaq's kind of an anomaly because Shaq was unbelievably athletic. But you get the point. Essentially, it's a very tall player who's maybe not as athletic, but because of their size, automatically has an advantage in basketball versus, you know, someone who's technically more skilled, but happens to be much smaller and shorter. And with that, I think that Thanos wins. Plus, he can probably dunk without having to jump. So he is very tall. People don't realize how tall Thanos is.
He is very tall. You're
Yes.
right. I still think though that Cap either can test Thanos or could win. So let's come back to that one too.
Okay, we'll come back to that one. Moving on. Soccer. I have Wasp. You have Shang-Chi.
I mean,
I like my pick. I do. I like my pick a lot. I think it makes perfect sense. Soccer is a team sport, So you do have other teammates, and I feel like Shang-Chi, while very athletic, we don't know everything about him. We know that he's very athletic for sure. Probably up
Do
there
we
with.
know he can kick?
Do we know that that Shang-Chi can?
Yes.
Yes, we know that he can kick.
Okay.
But if you think about the Wasp, she could literally not, like, the goalkeeper has the ability to react to Shang-Chi kicking.
Okay.
Does not have the reaction ability when Wasp is hitting the ball, because Wasp has the ability to hit the ball with the same strength as a normal person. Granted, it may not be as fast as Shang-Chi, but they're legitimately going to have no idea where the ball's coming from. So do you prefer a goalie to basically be blind right as the goal comes in, or for the goalie to have to react to someone who's kicking the ball fast? I would rather have the element of surprise.
You do have the element of surprise. I give you that. I just like, I can't visualize the Wasp playing soccer. We'll come back to that one too.
Okay.
This is
Volleyball.
not going.
Black Panther versus Ant-Man. I'm gonna say it again.
I'm gonna
say it
give
again.
that to you,
Okay.
dude. I'm giving it to you.
Thank
I
you.
mean, I think Ant-Man would do decent. But yeah, I think Black Panther locks that up.
Thank
So,
you. I appreciate
you're
that. I
welcome.
wasn't for sure I was going to have to
You're
make the case
welcome.
again, because while I do believe that Ant-Man
I'm
would
not
be
completely unreasonable.
okay, I appreciate that, and I would hope
No
that you're not
problem.
unreasonable in this next one. Shooting, Hawkeye versus Star
We don't have
Lord.
to talk about it. We don't
Okay.
have to talk about
Thank
it.
you. Thank you. I appreciate that. And then finally, Field, Vision versus Hulk. Again, I think that Vision could be I think he could be close. I think there's a case to be made here.
There's a case, but I think Hulk is better at field.
Yeah, I'll give you that one. I'll give you that one.
Okay.
So let me see here. Let me make sure we have all this. So just to double check, just to confirm, I have gymnastics with Spider-Man beating Scarlet Witch. You have swimming with Captain Marvel beating Iron Man. You gave me volleyball and shooting, advantage toward Black Panther in volleyball and Hawkeye in shooting. And in field, you have Hulk. So the current score, 3-2, advantage me, with soccer, basketball, and track still left on the board. I think we have to decide at least one, maybe two more. Let's come to a conclusion.
Okay.
Take your pick. So if you get the choice to make your case for either Doctor Strange in track, Captain America in basketball, or Shang-Chi, excuse me, in soccer, which one are you 100%, no question about it, like that person is winning?
Dang. Okay. Granted, I know that like Quicksilver, like track would be his thing. However, by the definition of a race, that's why I'm like, I think Doctor Strange could do it. But I'm not as committed to that one as I am Shang-Chi with soccer.
Okay.
So I'm willing to fight on Shang-Chi with soccer.
I'll bend on that one. I think
Okay.
that Shang-Chi has a better ability to score more goals, but I think Wasp, granted, while not super strong, again, has the element of surprise. Think about it. She can literally shrink the soccer ball
I understand your concept.
and fly, and she
I
can just
do.
throw it into the goal. She literally walk right behind the
You
goalkeeper
can't
and
do
put it in the goal.
that.
Yeah, you
That's
can.
against the rules.
No, it's not.
You can't throw the ball into the goal.
Or you can like set it down and then just kick it, and then you pop back up and you just score.
Okay. Do I have this win or not?
You do. I'm just making the
Thank
case.
you. I know.
All right. So it is 3-3. Track and basketball left. I'll be honest. Quicksilver wins track. There's no doubt about it in my eyes. And I think I edge you out in basketball. Again, like Captain America, we know this from playing basketball. He's just not going to have a chance. Like, he may get a good few shots every once in a while in, or at least be close. But if Thanos is guarding him, and Thanos is quick, like, you know, I didn't say which Thanos. I can go for a
Who's
very
quicker?
athletic Thanos.
Who's quicker?
On a basketball court, Thanos, if this is a 1-versus-1 basketball game, I guess this would be team basketball in this
I
situation.
mean, I think it would be pretty like well established that Cap is quicker than Thanos.
Okay, yes. Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Captain America is quicker than Thanos sprinting wise.
Yeah.
And I didn't think about this. So this would be a team game, right? So they have 4 other teammates.
All
Captain
right,
America
cool.
is the shining star for his team. Thanos is the shining star for his team. Nobody
my
is stopping
team-
Thanos.
My team would do a run and gun offense and with Cap getting the ball every time for easy layups and would totally destroy Thanos.
No, that's
So,
not.
yeah,
That's not
it
as
would.
relied upon
It would.
when it comes down to Thanos, who basically would back down whoever he is against. Think about it. Captain America, while tall, he's got to go against other tall and fast players at the Olympics. So he will have people who are going to keep up with him and are going to be the same height as him, maybe blocking him every once in a while. Because while Captain America is very athletic, there is nobody.
You remember he's a super soldier, right?
Yes, of course.
Okay, just making sure.
I'm just saying that I feel like Captain America is held back by his strength in this particular department because he does not want to throw the ball as hard as he possibly can at the goal. He needs to be
I'm not
precise.
Okay, I think precision, he beats Thanos. I think in speed, he beats Thanos. So,
All right. So do I win track?
yeah,
Okay.
you win track.
I win track. So I'm up 4-3. Basketball is the decider. We will leave that. Is it a tie? Who wins in basketball? Thanos or Captain America? We will leave it at that, and we'll call it a day. So with that, let us know in the comments. Let us know your thoughts. Who wins in basketball? Never thought you'd be asked this question, but here we are. 5 versus 5. Thanos on one team, Captain America on the other. Which team wins? And considering all 4 players on both the teams are identical, there's no, change up there. Who wins? Who's the all-star? And who takes it? So there we have it. Another podcast in the books. Any final thoughts, Savannah, as we close things out?
I guess all I want to say is that we all know that Cap will be up there on that podium saluting or having his hand over his heart for the national anthem because that is how it should be. So yeah, there's that. And I am really excited for next week's Loki episode.
Yes.
I was last week. I am every week, but my expectations were like exceeded this week.
Mm-hmm.
I got a lot of answers, but it doesn't mean that I'm satisfied. Does that make sense?
Sure.
And I'm just really impressed that Marvel keeps delivering like this. So
Agreed. Very well said. Very well said. I agree. Yes.
Thank you.
I also do appreciate, with the Olympics, the American angle. Captain America is obviously Captain America for a reason. So, there is that, but we'll see what happens.
Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. But yeah, like I said, just to kind of wrap things up, very excited, obviously, about Loki. Obviously, episode 5 is going to be wonderful. We were told that episode 4 and 5 are both going to be crazy. They're both going to be amazing. So with that, I'm very, very excited for the 5th episode. And I'm hoping, I guess, if that can live up to the hype, if not maybe even be better than episode 4, that would instantly for me take the title of this being the best Marvel series, no question about it, and it very well may already be that. So yes, very excited for next week's podcast. It's gonna be a lot of fun. If you have not done so already, make sure to check us out on social media. You can check us out on Twitter @RealConvo, on Instagram @RealConvo. There as well. We will be having this going up very soon, this podcast, and then after that, we may be doing a watch together. We talked about this last week, or at least we hinted at it. The summer watch series, where we basically watch some of the best summer movies with everyone. We had a great time watching Luca, the new Disney and Pixar movie. That seems to be doing very well. People seem to really like that. So I think we're going to do another one. And just to let people know, if you've made it all the way to the very end of the episode, the movie that we're going to be doing for our first summer watch series and our second ever watch together is going to be Jurassic Park. We love Jurassic Park. It was our #1 summer movie, voted on by both of us. And so we'll be doing that either the next day or so, but you can expect that to be up at some point during this coming week, or rather during this week, which would be a lot of fun. So with that, we appreciate everybody for tuning into Real Conversation. We will see you for episode 4 next Wednesday. Another episode of Loki, more top headlines, more fun draft and crazy shenanigans, and we will see you all next time.